Welcome to the timeline of the exile to Jesus. We're in the sixth personality that is in the timeline, and that would be Jeremiah, the prophet, who wrote the long book of Jeremiah. As we can see here, we'll go up to our chart that we originally had. I've changed it a little bit. We can see then the kings of Judah ended up here a long time before the timeline begins. And the timeline began with Josiah because of Jeremiah, and that's when he began. But Josiah didn't go into exile. The first one that went into exile was Jehoiahaz, Shalom. Then Jehoiakim, Eliakim was his name, Jehoiachin, and Zedekiah, who is also called Mattaniah, all during the reign of Jeremiah. And then Jeremiah went into the captivity, actually into Egypt, for probably a short period of time, unless he went longer than it mentions in his book, which is a possibility because he does talk about conversing and writing letters to people in Babylon. Now, at the same time, we had Daniel. He first mentions people being taken during Jehoiakim's reign, which would have been the first time Nebuchadnezzar came. And apparently Daniel was part of that group. So Daniel went into Babylon, but he was there at the beginning during Jehoiakim. And now he was in Babylon during Jehoiachin and Zedekiah, Gedaliah. And then he went into the captivity. And I think he went all the way to Darius, if I'm not mistaken. I know he went to Nebuchadnezzar and Belteshazzar, and then Darius came into the picture. Daniel was a prophecy of delivering dreams and interpretations of them and future portents of things that were going to happen. You can go through the book of Daniel. We're not going through these whole books, just pointing these things out. Jeremiah was basically was a prophet to the priests and the monarchy, the rulers of Israel. And he did have some prophesying of the future, but nothing compared to Ezekiel. Now, Ezekiel prophesies the end, the surrounding of Jerusalem and the king going out through a secret passage and being captured, and we'll go through that when we go into Ezekiel, which would be next of the people of the timeline. And Ezekiel delivered condemnation to the people that were around him, and what was happening, it was to the near time, and then future portents which were going to happen. And then he basically prophesied and spoke to the people that were of the exile, wherever they were. River Chebar, it does mention. So these are the prophets. Now, Haggai and Zechariah, they prophesied during Darius, which we'll get to later, and then Artaxerxes was with Esther, and then that would be the end of the Bible. But then we're going to continue on to the time of Jesus. So with that, I put together this listing in the book of Jeremiah of the things that relate to the exile and the warnings of Jeremiah in the timeline that it is apparent in the book. It begins with in Arameus, Josiah. It says in the 13th year of Josiah, son of Ammon, king of Judah, and until this day, for 23 years, that the word of the Lord came to me, all the way down. And then it mentions that he laments over Josiah being killed, who was warned not to go up north to get involved between Egypt, the Assyrians, and Babylon fighting. and Josiah ignored Pharaoh, I think it was Necho, and he ended up getting killed. Then next would be Jehoiakim, his son. And it says here, you can see these in the blue. I have it basically what it's about. You can read these as we go through, and I'll just go through the blue and show what it's all about. It says here, the Lord recounts how he used Jeremiah to warn the people. In the 4th year of Jehoiakim, there's instructions to Baruch, Jeremiah's anamanuensis, a writer. And then the 4th year of Jehoiakim, a scroll against Jerusalem was written and sent to the king. And then in the 4th year, again, a day of vengeance against all the nations. And the 5th year, a scroll against Jerusalem more. And then it came to pass in the 30th and 7th year of the resettling of Jehoiakim later. So basically, it says, I said, if this is written by Jeremiah, then he lived well into the 70 years. Now, this may have been written, chapter 42 may have been written by someone else that added it to it, which I kind of think did happen, but I can't prove it. Next king then was Jehoiachin, Jehoiakim's son. And we have a prophecy of Jehoiachin's being taken to Babylon by Nebuchadnezzar. And then a prophecy of the return of the prisoners, a strange prophecy of God and the return, and then recounts, Jeremiah 29:2 recounts the exile of Jehoiachin. Then comes Zedekiah. And Zedekiah said, and he did the wicked thing before the Lord his God, and he did not feel shame in front of Jeremiah the prophet and from out of the mouth of the Lord. And then 28:1 of Jeremiah, it talks about Hananiah, the 4th year of Zedekiah, Hananiah the false prophet, and the recompense to Zedekiah for what he did. This is in his 4th year. Jeremiah writes that. And then the 9th year of Zedekiah, the fall of Jerusalem. And then the 9th year again, the fall of Jerusalem. And then in the word coming in the 10th year talks about Jeremiah acquiring a field that the people will come back to Jerusalem, Israel. And then in 52:5, again, this I believe is an added later, and the city came into conflict until the 11th year to King Zedekiah. And then in the 11th year of Zedekiah, in the 4th month, the 9th of the month, the city was broken asunder. And the 20th and 1st year of Zedekiah and his taking reign, he reigned in Jerusalem 11 years. So then he went on. So all these things Jeremiah writes. And then he writes the famous passage in 25:11 where it says, and all the land will be for extinction, and these nations shall serve to the king of Babylon 70 years. And in the fulfilling the 70 years, I will take vengeance upon the king of Babylon and upon that nation for their unrighteousness. And more about that in 29:10. And then 2 Chronicles 36:21, it says, and he resettled the remaining ones to fulfill the word of the Lord through the mouth of Jeremiah, until the land favorably receives its Sabbaths, by observing the Sabbath all the days of its desolation, to observe the Sabbath in the fulfillment of the 70 years. Now we get down to Daniel. Daniel talks about the 70 years, but we'll save that later for the book of Daniel. And then 2 Chronicles 36:22, in the 1st year of Cyrus, king of the Persians, after the fulfillment of the saying of the Lord through the mouth of Jeremiah, the 70 years. And then in Jeremiah 29:1-23, Jeremiah writes a letter to the exiles in Babylon. So he must have lasted into Nebuchadnezzar's reign. In the New Testament, Jeremiah is mentioned in Matthew 2:17, where it says, "Then was fulfilled the things having been spoken by Jeremiah the prophet, saying, A voice in Ramah was heard, wailing and weeping and much grieving, Rachel weeping for her children, and she did not want to be comforted, for they are not," and this is relating to the children that King Herod, young boys that King Herod killed when the Magi came, tell him about the child, the new king being born in Bethlehem. And then in Matthew 27:9, it says, "Then was fulfilled the thing having been spoken through Jeremiah the prophet, saying, And I took the 30 silver pieces, the value of the one being valued, who was valued by the sons of Israel, and they gave them for the field of the potter, as the Lord gave orders to me." Now, this is not, as I can tell, any place in the book of Jeremiah a quotation. It says he says it. Where it's at in Matthew that knows about it, I don't know. But I thought I would show you that Jeremiah is even mentioned in the New Testament. So our next video will be going through the prophet Ezekiel. Hope you join us. Till then, God bless.